This is the video lesson for PreAlgC 7.5, Solving Two-Step Inequalities. So the objective of this lesson is to solve two-step inequalities and then also to use two-step inequalities to solve problems. So in this first example, we see that we have an inequality. The reason why it's an inequality is because, right, before we were solving equations, that would be when this is an equal sign. But you can see here, this is a less than or equal to sign, which we call an inequality. But we're actually going to solve these the same. There's just a little, there's a couple of quirks that are a little different. But these are basically similar to solving equations. So the first thing we do when we solve an equation is find our equal sign and put our tracks around it. In this case, we have an inequality symbol. So we also do the same thing. We're going to put our tracks around the inequality symbol and then solve it the same way we do an equation, but we're just going to leave the inequality symbol the same when we need to. So here, then we're going to look for our variable that we want to isolate. And we can see we have 1y and it's on the left. And so to isolate that, we want to undo everything that's happening to the y. And so it's being multiplied by 2 and then 3 is being subtracted from it. So in order to undo that, we're going to go backwards in order. So we want to get rid of the minus 3, and the opposite of minus is plus. So we're going to add 3 to the left side. In order to keep both sides equal, we're going to add 3 to the right side too, just like in an equation. And then we're going to add down, right? So the 2y stays. Negative 3 plus 3, that goes to 0, right? And then less than or equal to, and then negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. Don't forget that negative. And then remember, when in these things, we don't have to leave the 0, right? So 2y plus 0 is the same as 2y, and that's the whole reason we do this, is to get rid of that. So we don't actually have to write the 2y. I mean the 0. We do have to write the 2y. Okay, so now we again see that our variable, oops. Oh, I see why. It changes to yellow. This is our y. It's on the left side. It's only being multiplied by 2. So to undo multiply by 2, we can do the opposite of multiply, which is divide. So we're going to divide, and that is a highlighter. Divide the left side by 2, which means we're also going to divide the right side by 2. Okay, and then what happens there is, right, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So this is 1y, and then less than or equal to, and then negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. But remember, in algebra, we don't need to write this 1. 1 times y, we just write as y. And that's how we get rid of that's how we isolate our y. And so now that our y is isolated, we have that the solution is, this is our solution because y is isolated. Y is less than or equal to negative 1. And what that means is all values of y that are either less than or equal to negative 1, when plugged in up here, make this inequality true. Right, so let's think of a number that's less than negative 1. Negative 2, right? If we plug in negative 2 for y, right, negative 2 times 2, that's negative 4. Negative 4 minus 3 is negative 7. Negative 7 is less than or equal to negative 5. So it's true. So that's how we solve that. All values less than or equal to negative 1 will make this inequality true. So now I want you to try this one on your own. I'll leave this other one up so you can see when you push pause. But press pause in the video and write this down on a piece of paper, this inequality, and try to solve it yourself. And then check back for the answer, okay? Okay, hopefully you tried this one on your own and you got that x is less than or equal to negative 8. And let's go through this example now. So you can see here, right, we put our tracks around our inequality symbol, and we found our variable on the right. There's only one of them. And it's being multiplied by 1/2, and then 6 is being subtracted. So we want to get rid of the 6. The opposite of subtract is add, so we add 6 to both sides. The left becomes, right, negative 10 plus 6 becomes negative 4. And then these negative 6 plus 6 goes to 0, so we don't have to write the 0. We bring the 1/2 x down. So then it's 1/2 x times negative 4. So here's our variable. In order to get rid of times 1/2, we multiply by the reciprocal. So you just multiply by you just flip it and multiply by that. And that's because 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 1 is 2, and these basically cancel to 1, so this would be 1x. So the reason we're doing that is to get rid of this. This just becomes 1. So then these cancel, and we get x on this side. Now, if we multiply this side by 2 over 1, that's the same as multiplying by 2, right? 2 divided by 1 is 2. So 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. And so I just rewrote the variable first and flipped the sign, right? So then x is less than, right? Because it's being pointed to the x, so I just wrote it another way. X is less than or equal to negative 8. Okay, so let's look at example 2. So this is going to be the same thing. Let's find our inequality symbol, put our tracks, find our variable, it's on here, and then let's undo our plus 6 by subtracting 6. Since we did it on the right, we're going to do it on the left. Negative 9 minus 6 is negative 15. Greater than symbol, and negative 1/3 x stays, and then plus 6 minus 6 goes to 0, which we don't have to write. And then, now we can see here that we have an x on this side. It's being multiplied by negative 1/3. So when we have so in order to undo multiply by negative 1/3, we're going to multiply right by the reciprocal, but also we want to get rid of the negative, so we're going to multiply by the negative. Okay, so let's make this green. So we're going to multiply by negative 3 over 1. So that's going to cancel the negative. And we're going to multiply this side by negative 3 over 1, which is the same as multiplying by negative 3. Okay, now here's a little quirk with the inequalities. When you multiply either side by a negative number, this symbol in the middle does not say the same. You actually have to flip the symbol because the negative sign is going to change whether or not it's greater than or equal to. So that's the quirk with the inequalities. So when we do solve these out, right, negative 15 times negative 3, negative times a negative becomes positive. 15 times 3 is 45, so this is positive 45. And then this side, right, the negative and the negative cancel, the 3 and the 1, they cancel to be 1. So this is just x. But instead of writing greater than symbol, we flip the symbol to be less than. So this is an important quirk. The difference between solving inequalities and equations is if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, you flip your inequality symbol. Okay, so that's the big thing you need to remember for this. Oops, I erased. I did not want to erase. I wanted to highlight. Here we go. Okay, so see how that's changed. Okay, so that's the key. All right, so try this one on your own. Press pause in the video. You can see the one above. And then try this on a piece of paper. Write this out and see if you can solve this on your own. And then check back for the solution once you're finished. Okay, so hopefully you got m is greater than or equal to negative 15. Going over this problem, we can see we did our tracks, we found our variable on the left, so we want to undo what's happening on the left. To undo plus 4, we subtract 4 from both sides of the tracks. Solving this down, right, these cancel, goes to 0. So we're just left with negative 2m on the left side. We still keep our inequality symbol the same, negative less than or equal to, and then 34 minus 4 is 30. But here is where things get a little different, right? We are it's this negative 2 times m. So to get rid of a times negative 2, to divide by negative 2 on the left and the right. And then remember, when we do that, when we divide or multiply by a negative number, you flip the inequality symbol. So here, when we cancel, negative 2 times divided by negative 2 is 1. So 1m is just m. And then when we write our inequality symbol, instead of less than or equal to, we flip it so it's greater than or equal to. Okay, and then 30 divided by negative 2 is negative 15. So the answer is m is greater than or equal to negative 15. Okay, and then the last example we're going to do is a word problem. So we're going to solve a word problem with inequalities. This says an expedition leader estimates that a group of showgoers can carry less than 550 pounds of food and equipment. The group must carry 336 pounds of equipment as well as 25 pounds of food for each climber. What is the greatest possible number of people in the expedition? Okay, so the equipment is 336. Wait, let's just pause for a second and let's figure out, right, what is the greatest possible number of people? Okay, so number of people is what we're solving for, so we're going to make that x. Okay, so our number of people is x. They have 336 pounds of equipment, but then they need 25 pounds for each person. So we don't know how much food that is, right? It's going to be 25 times x. That's the expression for that. But the total has to be less than 550. So this has to be less than 550. So that's our inequality. So that's the hard part in these word problems, is setting up the inequality. And now, since we've solved 4 of these so far, we are going to be experts at solving this one. So we're going to put our tracks down around our inequality symbol. We're going to find our variable. We see that's being multiplied by 25 and then added to 336. So we're going to get rid of that 336 by subtracting 336. Be careful here, right? This is an invisible plus here. So if you don't have a symbol here, right, that means it's a plus. So to undo it, you have to subtract. So to subtract that from this side, we do that on both sides. So then, right, this goes to 0, and then the 25x comes down. We haven't multiplied or divided by a negative number, so we keep our inequality symbol the same. And then 336 minus 550 is 214. Right? That equals 10, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I don't have a calculator. Okay. So then to undo times 25, right? We have our x here. We want to undo times 25. So we're going to divide both sides by positive 25. So our symbol is going to stay the same. This goes to 1. So 1x is just x, is less than, symbol stays the same. And 214 divided by 25 is 8.56. Okay, so let's see. That is not our answer, right? We have we've solved our inequality, but now we have to solve the problem. So let's go back and read. It said, what is the greatest possible number of people in the expedition? Well, it has to be less than 8.56 people. So 8.5 people does not exist, right? You can't have 8.5 people, but so we just need, you can only have integers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what's the first integer that's less than 8.56? That would be 8, right? You can't have 9 people. 9 is not less than this. So the answer would be 8 people. Okay. All right, so for the last thing, I want you to try this one on your own. Read the problem, see if you can come up with the inequality, and then see if you can solve it. So push pause, try this one on your piece of paper, and then check back for the solution. Okay, so hopefully you got that she must earn at least $7,500 each month. And to solve that, right, it says each salesperson earns, so she gets $1,900 per month. So that's always every month. But she makes 4% of her sales every month. And since it says how much must the salesperson sell each month, right, that's our X. We don't know what the sales are, and that's what we're trying to solve for. And we know whatever that sales are, she gets 4% of that. And remember, 4% as a decimal is 0.04. So we can multiply that together to figure out how much she makes in her commissions plus what she makes. And that she wants to keep maintain a monthly income of at least $2,200 each month. So that needs to be, that total salary every month needs to be at least greater than or equal to $2,200. So that's how we set up our inequality. Put our tracks, find our variable, and then undo everything that's happening on the left side to that variable. So we subtract our 1,900 from both sides, that's 300, and then so she needs to be making $300 in sales, and that would be right with her in commissions, right? In order to figure out what the sales are, right, you divide by the 0.04 on this side, that becomes X. You divide 300 by 0.04 and you get 7,500. So her sales must be greater than or equal to 7,500. So that means, and the question says, how much must the salesperson sell each month? She must sell, I guess we can write the word sell. She must sell at least 7,500 each month. All right, and that is lesson 7.5. Enjoy.